So the last video got ended because the software allows me to record only 15 minutes. So 15 minutes ended up quite soon. Okay, I was saying that we can get 6.85 if we round it off to the nearest cent, that is we drop B and 8. We can get 6.85 for any of these values of A and B. So while A can be 4, B can be 9, B can be 7, B can be 8, B can be as well as 6. So anything more than 5 here will round it off in a way that 4 becomes 5. So what we are trying to see is, can we find out A and can we find out B? So A can be 4 for this to become 5, but B can be anything between 6 to 9 for it to become 6.85. so if it is 6, then also if we round it out, this becomes 5. If it is 7, then it also becomes 5. So we get 6.85 in any of these following values. So we cannot find out what are the values of A and B by statement 1 alone. Now let us see what does statement 2 say. Statement 2 says, if t were rounded out to be to the nearest tenth of a cent, the result would be 6.85. So again, if we are rounding this t to the nearest tenth of a cent, so tenth of a cent means nearest thousandth digit. So 8 is tenth, A is 100, B is thousandth. So if we round it out till this, that is if we drop 8, the result should be 6.85. So what if, so let us take two cases for A and B. What if A is more than 5, a number like 6.8, 6, 7, 8. So here A, which is more than 5, like 6. So if we round this off to the nearest tenth of a cent, that is if we drop 8, this will become 6.868. So it does not become 85. So for this to become 85, the number should actually become 6.850, because we want tenth of a cent, so it should become 850. Now we know that A is 5 because they have already given us that it becomes 6.85 if we round it off to the nearest tenth of a cent. So after rounding off, B should become 0. So when can B become 0? So if B is 8, it will become 9, because we are rounding off 8, we are dropping off 8. 8 is more than 5, B becomes 1 more than the value it originally has. So if it is 7, it will become 8. If it was 8, it will become 9. If it was 9, it will become 10. Right? So we find out that B has to be 9, so that after rounding off, it becomes 10. So when it becomes 10, the carryover goes and gets carried on A. So we find out that because B is 9, so the number is actually 6.8A98. Yes, so the number is 6.8A98. When we drop this 8, this will become 9 will become 10, and this will become a plus 1. So a will become a plus 1. That means for a to become 5, after rounding off, a has to be 4, because after rounding off it will become 5. So if it was 4, it will become 5. So we come to know that it should be 6.8498. So this is what the number should have been for it to become 6.85 after rounding off to the nearest cent. So I'll summarize the solution once again. So for 6.8 AB8, which is, just rub this out, for 6.8 AB8 to become 6.85 after rounding it off to the nearest tenth of a cent, we come to know that the nearest tenth of a cent value should be something like this. So 0 holds no value here, so it gets ignored when we write. So it should be like this after rounding off. So what are we trying to round off? We are trying to round off the 8 in the last. So when we round this 8 off, b should become 0. For b to become 0, it should be 9. So when this 9 becomes 0, a becomes a plus 1. So for a to become 5, it should have been 4. So by the data given in statement 2, we can find out the value of a and b. So statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question, but statement 1 alone is not sufficient. Now let us come to question number 2. Question number 2 says that, is the standard deviation of numbers a, b and c equal to standard deviation of numbers 4, 8 and 12? So to answer this question, we'll first have to understand what is the meaning of standard deviation. We have been given with two statements to find out the answer to the question, but before we proceed to answering the question, we'll have to understand what is the meaning of standard deviation. So in order to find out standard deviation, we'll have to first find out what is mean. So the two concepts that we need to understand before answering this question are mean and standard deviation. So mean is the average. We generally use it in our day-to-day life. So for example, what is the average runs scored by a batsman, or what is the average temperature in the month of April? So what you do is you add all the runs scored by the batsman and divide it by the number of innings he has played. To find out the average temperature in the month of April, you add the temperature of all the 30 days and then divide it by 30. So let us see an example. So suppose a student scored, say, 7 marks in test 1, 8 marks in test 2 and 9 marks in test 3. Then what would be the average score of students in these 3 tests? So what we do is, the way to calculate the average is sum of the values divided by number of values. So in this case, we have 7, 8 and 9 as the values, and there are 3 values that we have here. So sum of 7, 8 and 9 is 7 plus 8 plus 9 which is 24. Now we have three values here, which are 7, 8 and 9. So we divide this by 3 and we get an average of 8. So this is how we calculate average or mean. So the formula is sum of the values divided by number of values, or number of data points, whatever. Now that we have understood how to calculate mean, we should go ahead and understand how do we calculate standard deviation. So what is standard deviation? So standard deviation is actually a measure of how far away the values are from the mean, or what is the variance in the values as compared to the mean. So how do we calculate this? There are 4 steps to it. So step number 1 is calculate the mean of values. Step number 2 is calculate the difference of each value from the mean. Step number 3 is square each of these differences and add them. Step number 4 is find out square root of mean of the differences calculated above. So let us do an example. Do an example to find out standard deviation, say 4, 8 and 12 as given in the question. So first we find out the mean. So 4 plus 8 plus 12 divided by 3 will give us the mean, so which is 24 by 3, which is equal to 8. So the mean is 8. Then we calculate difference of each value from the mean. So 8 minus 4 is 4. Then 8 minus 8 is 0. Then 8 minus 12 is equal to minus 4. And in step 3 we square the above differences. So the 4 square is 16, 0 square is 0, minus 4 square is again 16. Step number 4, we find out the square root of the mean of the differences calculated above, or the mean of, this should be mean of square of differences calculated above. So we have 16, 0 and 16, which are 3 numbers. So we'll have to calculate mean of this 16, 0, 16. So 16 plus 0 plus 16 is 32. 32 divided by 3 will give us the mean, and then we'll have to find out the square root in order to find out the standard deviation. So 32 by 3, 32 by 3. So 32 by 3 is 10.66. It continues, so we can make it as 10.67. So square root of 10.67 will give us the standard deviation of these numbers. So square root of 10.67 happens to be 3.67. Square root